Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to tell you guys what you need to do if you've bought a new Mac, because these settings are quite important and it will actually help you have a better experience overall as a Mac user, especially if you've come from Windows. So let's dive straight in. The very first thing you want to do is check for the latest updates. Now this is a fairly obvious thing, but it's kind of overlooked a lot of the times, and it's important because Apple may have actually released some security patches or various bugs that have been fixed. So upgrading to the latest version is always an important thing. Very simple, just go to your settings, go to the general tab, and you can check software updates. And if there's anything new that has been released, of course, at this time of recording, Sonoma 14.4 is what you will be seeing. Now, a quick disclaimer also, all the settings that I'm going to talk about are based on Sonoma 14.4. If you do have a previous version of macOS, then they may be similar, but of course there are changes with each new release of macOS. The next setting we're going to talk about is the dock. Now the dock is obviously designed to keep your most commonly used or the most frequently used apps ready at your disposal. There's no point of having apps that you're never going to use that are just there in the dock, because it just takes up space and it's unnecessary. So get rid of them immediately. All you got to do is just drag them from where they are and into the desktop, and they should just disappear. And what you want to do is only have the apps that you're going to commonly use, like I have. So I've got a few Adobe apps, obviously as a creator, you know, you're going to use them quite often. I have a few other sort of productivity apps which I use pretty much all the time, and these productivity apps obviously help me plan my workflow and organize my day, etc. So all those things are going to be important. And then you also have like settings and any other app that I use on a regular basis. That is what you should have in your dock. And just off the subject of the dock itself, I don't like to have the dock always visible, so I actually hide it when I don't need it. It's always, for me specifically, it's always at the bottom. Now you can obviously place that dock wherever you want on the screen, left, right, whatever it is. But for me, I always keep it at the bottom, and it's easy to access, so it's just hidden away because I like to have a minimalistic approach to how I work. It's just how I like to keep things. So whenever I need to access it, just hover over the bottom of the screen. It should pop up, easy access to whatever app that you need to access. All right, the next one is obviously an option, just the same as all these other ones that I'm going to show you, but this one is Stage Manager. Now this was something that I use on my iPad quite a lot, but now it's available, or has been available, on macOS for some time now. And it's actually, for me personally, it's very useful when it comes to multitasking. So the idea behind it is that you have all of your windows open just to the left hand side of whatever programs you're currently using, and the main active window is what you're currently on. Unless of course you are maximizing the window, then all the other apps disappear, which I'm going to get onto in a second because that's my next tip. But other than that, it just makes for easy access rather than having all clustered windows all over the place. So it's a smoother workflow in my opinion, and it just works for my use case. So of course it depends on what you're going to use Stage Manager for, but I would recommend using it because then you have all the available apps on your left hand side of the screen and the main one that you're working on right in the middle. And continuing on from that previous one is to use multiple desktops. Now, I didn't even know until a few weeks ago that this feature actually existed. So I'm actually fairly new to the whole Mac ecosystem because I've been a Windows user for the longest time I can remember. But this feature was actually extremely useful, and I didn't know until I accidentally discovered it. So ultimately what you do is you have one window that you maximize, and that in itself can become its own desktop. And then what you need to do is use 3 fingers on the trackpad and you flick across either left or right, and then you're able to access multiple desktops. It's almost like having multiple screens. So if you're gonna just focus on one app, for example, if you're editing and you've got Premiere Pro open, maximize that so you've got nothing else around you, so your Stage Manager and all the other nonsense just disappears. You've got focus on that one app. And then if you wanted to access another app, for example, or you just wanted to browse the web real quick for references or images, you can use 3 fingers, swipe them across on the trackpad, and that will take you to the other desktops that you have. From what I know, you can have as many as you want, but of course it's limited to how much space you have, how much RAM your system has, etc. So just be wary of that until you start using cache on your hard drive. The next setting that you want to have on is show the path bar and the status bar. I'm not sure why these options are hidden, or they may be hidden when you buy a new Mac, but again, really easy to activate. When you're in your Finder, just click on View, go down to where it says the path bar and the status bar, and switch those on. Ultimately, what that allows you to do is see how much disk space you have available. Obviously, you might want to have that just as a reference. And the path bar shows you where you are currently in the folder, just so you can see your sort of breadcrumbs of where you've been. And if you need to go back at any time to a subfolder or a parent folder, you'll be able to access it simply just by clicking on it. And I think that's really helpful. I don't know why these things are actually not on by default from Apple, but it is what it is. So this is how you switch it on. I recommend you have them on because it'll make your life a bit easier. You'll have a reference point of where you are and how much disk space you have remaining. All right, this next one is also related to the Finder window, and that is the sidebar. Okay, you've got a bunch of different options here. You've got various different folders that you may not even need to access, but the beauty of it is that you can customize this to suit your specific needs. So if there's a specific folder that you don't want, or there is a folder that you do want, for example, your projects folder, you can actually drag that into the favorites panel or the sidebar panel and arrange it how you want. But you can also go into settings, and once you are in settings, you will see that there is a bunch of folders that appear. Now, out of all of these folders, you can tick or untick the ones that you don't want. For example, you don't want to have pictures in there, so you can unclick that, or you don't want the iCloud drive. So you will have the option to uncheck whatever you don't want, and that way customize the look of the sidebar to how you want. Taking that a step further, if you go to the advanced tab here, you will also see an option that says show all file extensions. Now, personally, I use that to make sure that I'm able to see exactly what files are in what folder, even though, you can see them with the icon, but sometimes they don't have an icon. So having this option checked is also very helpful, and it'll allow you to see exactly what each file is that's in your folders. And also at the bottom of that, you can see that while performing a search, you want to select the current folder only. That way it optimizes the search. This is actually another tip I'm giving you now. It optimizes the search only specific to the actual folder, rather than scanning your whole hard drive and just taking longer, or actually giving you results that are completely unnecessary or nothing to do with what you searched. So selecting this particular option will actually speed up your search and optimize it more towards what you're looking for. And lastly, if you go to the general tab right here, you will also find that in the new folder option, you can choose which folder you want to open. So rather than it showing recent all the time, so you can use one of these options to be the default opening folder every time you open up this. All right, this one is pretty cool. I'm not sure if this feature was available before, but it's definitely available in 14.4. So you go to the Safari tab, and any website that you visit, you can actually create that website as an app, which I think is actually pretty cool, because what it does is it adds that website to your taskbar and it becomes its own app. So when you open it, it opens up in its own window rather than opening up in Safari or opening up in Chrome, and it becomes kind of like a self-sustaining app, which I think is pretty cool. So all you need to do is go to Safari. Once you have the website that you want to create as an app, you need to click on this icon here, which is the share button, and in that menu that pops up, you need to click on add to dock, and then you'll see a pop-up menu that appears, and just name whatever that page is, whatever you want to name it, and then add. And then what happens is that you will see it in your dock. Like here, for example, I have Squarespace, so when I click on Squarespace now, it will actually open it in its own window. Personally, I think that's really cool. Like I said, it just allows you to focus on whatever it is that you are working on, especially for a web-based service, for example, Squarespace. And that will allow you to just focus your attention on that specific task and just get rid of all the other clutter. And the last tip that I want to talk about, well, it's not really a tip, it's just a pretty awesome feature that they have introduced in macOS 14, is various screensavers, motion screensavers, the kind of screensavers that were available in Apple TV when you used to plug it in and they used to show these amazing sort of drone looking shots over various different valleys or cities, etc. Now all of those are available on the Mac, and I think they look pretty awesome. You have loads of different ones to choose from. If you just go to your settings, scroll down to screensaver, and you'll see that there are plenty of different options available. So you've got landscapes, you've got cityscape, water, underwater, earth, and on the right hand side of each one you'll see that there are multiple available. So for example, my one that I have here, you can see it's a skyline of Dubai. And another pretty awesome feature about this is you can actually set this as a desktop image as your background, and then once the screensaver begins, so if you leave it alone, screensaver begins, it will actually start moving. And once you've logged back in, that motion, that video will actually stop and become your background again. I think that's really cool. So it's a nice feature to have. You've got various different options, so feel free to customize that and personalize that to your own taste. But I think that's a great addition, and I'm glad that Apple has introduced this into Sonoma, and it just allows the whole experience to feel a bit more premium. I personally love it. Alright guys, so that is my tips, things that you should do just to sort of optimize your workflow on a new Mac, or if you have upgraded to macOS 14. I will have another video coming up in which I will tell you some of the most important apps that you should have, or the software that you should use to optimize your workflow further. Stay organized and be more creative, so look out for that video. If you haven't already done so, be sure to hit the like button. If you got value out of this, hit the subscribe button. A lot more content coming up, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.